5.
Oh my goodness. It's just a great thing to be this place and in this journey and in this story. Like I am so excited for this. It's like, to me, all of this podcast has been leading up to like this point. Like
Yes.
this is it. And I think we've said that before, but this is really it. Like this is really the like this is what we've been laying the groundwork for this whole time.
Yes.
So
if you're new here and you're listening to this trailer for Chapter 5, welcome. And we're going to try to do our best to kind of catch you up. If you've been listening since the beginning, we're just going to kind of remind you of some things before we hit the ground running in Chapter 5. So we have left off with, I am working in the office, but I have been put on timeout. Brandy and I have had certain ministries taken away from us, and we
are forbidden to be friends.
We are forbidden. Our friendship is forbidden. But we said F that, and we're still being friends in secret. We are secret friends.
Yeah.
And Pastor Younggun has decided that he really wants to be able to do more mission things. He's very mission minded, and he has decided that being able to be a chaplain in the military is a great avenue for him. At this point in time, this is not a full-time thing for him. This was his way of potentially joining the reserves or something like that. So we have that dynamic. Froggy and Melissa have started a theater ministry and have just put on a spectacular Christmas play, bigger than anything we have ever done at Come As You Are ever.
Yeah.
And there's some issues going on in the worship team.
Yeah. Well, like, and with the play, like, it was really, like, this was a really good time at Come As You Are. Like, prospectively, from my perspective, I have realized a lot doing this podcast. I have a lot of tunnel vision. I'm like, I was so focused on me and my world. That's what I could talk about. But yeah, like, just this call to ministry, and so many people got on board, and people who wouldn't normally be a part of anything, because we've talked before how in churches, it's like the same 10 people that are constantly showing up and running things. Like, this play really brought everybody together, and then it like opened the door for so many ministries to start saying, hey, we can do bigger and better things. And then, but with the worship team, like, I guess it goes hand in hand, because I was able to pour myself into this theater ministry and into this play. And, we're going to do another play after this, and we're going to talk about that in the upcoming chapter. But I was kind of, I don't even want to say outcast from the worship team at this time, but I don't know really a better way to describe it. So, we had a new worship leader show up at the church, and our worship team was going in one direction, and they were vibing, and I wasn't the vibe, and that's fine, and we just started to not see eye to eye on a lot of things. So yeah, that's going to be coming up. We're going to walk through all of that, and it gets a little dicey.
Well, and I think, like,
anybody who's ever been on a worship team is like, oh yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think, like, looking forward into chapter 5, it is important to point out that Pastor Tom is on the worship team.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And I think that's probably a little bit why some of these issues are starting, because you have people who do, like you said, ministries want to do bigger, grander things. They want to take a step out of the 1990s Baptist church and into, I mean, we're
Yeah.
approaching 2019. And so they're wanting to modernize. They're wanting to do a lot of these things that you see more mainstream evangelical churches doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and
And really,
definitely that like mega church mindset,
yes.
because so many churches now, something is different, in churches during this time. Something that we've never really seen before is they're becoming, I mean, you've had like television evangelists, and
Yeah.
you've had Christianity in the media, but I feel like this time it's like really starting to, like the Hillsong and Bethel, and the music is good. Like it's just
Yeah.
really good. Even in mainstream music, the music is really good.
Well, and you're
And
also
churches are
seeing a
big.
rise, and you're seeing a rise of like churches have full on YouTube channels.
Yeah,
They have a strong social media presence. They're taking their sermons and they're cutting them up into small bite-sized audio and video nuggets and throwing them out there on social media in like 30-second consumable sermons,
yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
Because you have to think about the fact that even like now, if you scroll through like TikTok or Facebook Reels or anything like that, like you can't tell the difference between a Christian and a non-Christian post until you're like, 10 seconds in,
yeah,
like there
yeah,
is no difference when you're scrolling. Like I find myself listening and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's what you were talking about. You know what I mean? Like you're like 30 seconds in and I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, and this is like today, it's everywhere. Back then, not that was that long ago, but it was still for these Western, smaller churches like we attended, you know, it was just we're always a little behind with
yeah,
fashion, with all of it. But yeah, so you have these mega churches, this evangelical movement that's everywhere and it's like big, and all of these small churches want to follow along.
yeah. But our worship team can't because Tom is a part of it. We've talked about the fact that Tom is self taught. He essentially watched YouTube and taught himself how to play instruments. He bought like a DVD series, I think, of like learn to play the guitar, you know, and he's very basic in his abilities. And so he has to practice and practice and practice all week long in order to perform on a Sunday morning in the worship team.
Yeah,
Where,
which he does just fine. It's just when it comes into like, ad libbing or improving or like going with the flow or changing it up in the middle of the song, which is what a lot of these big worship team and churches are known for. Yeah, like that's he's got the in this key, these chords, we're going to do verse, we're going to do chorus, we're going to do verse. There is no, oh, you want to go back to the bridge. Oh, you want to vamp for 5 hours, like
yeah,
that it doesn't work. And so, but we have a worship team full of musicians who can do that. So there's a lot of tension there. This is also, that just reminded me, but this is also like a really big time. And I don't know about mainstream churches. I just know with Come As You Are, but conferences are
yes,
becoming a very big thing. Like our worship team started going to worship conferences and listening to other worship teams and then listening to other worship artists speak and things like that. And I know like our women's ministry, there were outside conferences that we were being solicited by to go to them, and we did go to a couple, but I feel like this was a time of that rise of conferences. So it seems to me like there's a lot of outside influence um to Come As You Are at this time, and a desire is building within the people to do these things. Like you can now see what the church down the street is doing online. Like that, like nobody knew if you were having 2 sheep or 10 sheep in your Christmas program 20 years ago. And now it's like I can turn on any church and watch their Christmas program and be like, oh, look, they brought in live animals. They had an inflatable Mary. Like, you know what I mean?
But no, you're right. There is this outside influence, and there's this draw of like we can take what we're doing. And I want everyone to really, like, as we're moving forward, you are going to hear stories and you are going to be like, what the hell was wrong with you? Are you completely crazy? Have you lost your mind? And I want everyone to keep in mind, we believed everything. We've drank the Kool-Aid. We thought we were the best church in town. We thought we were the only church that was doing things correctly. We were the chosen. We were the blessed. We were the Israelites among the Gentiles, right? And so we're convinced of this. So when we have the opportunity to go bigger and take our message and go wider and have more people here, and this is really where this mindset of we're not just our town. We've taken over northern Colorado, and we're ready to take over the entire central United States.
That is so funny because it's so true.
So this is how we feel.
This little oh.
So before we wrap up this mini episode, we do want to introduce some new characters, so to speak, to our story.
Yeah.
We're going to call them the Griswolds. Okay. So the Griswolds they've been coming to the church for a little while. They are wonderful people. They are hilarious. They are relatable. They are down to earth. And they had recently lost their teenage son. And their teenage son was a part of our youth group way, way back in the day. OG, like when Justin and I were youth leaders. He was a part of our youth group. And so they had lost their son. And this led them to come as you are. And so they had been coming for a little while before we reached this point in our timeline. But they are going to become very prominent characters in our story as we move forward.
Okay, follow along.
Well, take notes because
take notes.
It's about to get
Ask
wild.
Questions, we'll answer them.